time, I'll call our meeting to order. We have with us tonight Dr. Bob Kretzu, who is going to give us our invocation, followed by our Boy Scout Troop 716 that's going to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will, all please rise for our invocation, followed by our pledge.
Thank you, Mary. Let us pray. Oh Lord, we confess that we are unable to know or do your will on our own. So we invoke your presence here tonight. We pray for supernatural wisdom and strength and grace. And Lord, we pray blessing on each of our leaders that are here tonight and those that serve this community. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. And our Boy Scout Troop, if you'll come to the microphone. There we go. And we appreciate you being here this evening.
If you will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. And if y'all will remain right there, you're going to have to bear with me because I got to sign them as we go. But we always present certificates to our troops. And so tonight we have those prepared. And we appreciate you being here this evening. I have Aiden Campbell. Thank you so much. And we have Liam Creasy. Thank you so much. Elijah Britton. Miles Ruff. Jacob Nutt. Or is it Nutt?
He didn't make it.
Canoe? Canoe. All righty, I'm sorry. Jacob Spradlin. Did I say it right? Oh, here. Hello. Luke Spradlin.
My daughter's here.
Thank you so much. And Robert Francis.
He wasn't able to make it either.
Okay. And the last young man is Tyler Ivory. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. And let me give you these too because we appreciate you being, and thank you so much. We want to thank the Scout leaders and parents that are here. We always appreciate
And my daughter.
Well, wait just a second. Commissioner Legg has had surgery and on his shoulder, and so he's going back to remove his jacket and then come back. So we'll just wait just a second for him to join us again.
It was hot, man.
It's on here.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, do we have any additions or deletions to our agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'd
Yes, sir.
like to add a discussion regarding the up-and-coming weekly agreements.
Okay. Any other additions or deletions to our agenda? Okay, that will become item I under new business. Do I have a motion to approve our agenda with that addition?
Make a motion to approve.
Do I
Second.
have a motion and a second? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Can I cheat a little bit?
Yes, sir, we'll let you use your left tonight. First thing we have on our agenda this evening is a presentation by Terry Williams regarding Wreaths Across America. Mr. Williams, if you'll come to the microphone, and we need you to give your name and address, and then you can start your presentation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. My name is Terry Williams. I'm a member of Rolling Thunder, Chapter 1 of Fayetteville, North Carolina. I live on Tom Starling Road, 1433 in Fayetteville. I'm here today, and I want to thank y'all for the opportunity to talk about Wreaths Across America for Sand Hills Veteran Graves and at Fort Bragg Cemetery. With me today, I have Craig Hardy, who is our committee leader for Wreaths Across America. He served in the Navy for 20 years. He has served on the fire department for 13 years, and he also is past president of Rolling Thunder at Fayetteville. Chapter 1. He also spent 6 years with Wreaths Across America, and he has all the answers to your questions about what our mission is. And I just want to say thank you for having us here today. Craig?
Thanks again for allowing us to speak. As Mr. Williams mentioned, we're from Rolling Thunder, but we're here on behalf of the 6,000 that are buried at Sand Hill State Veteran Cemetery and their families. This cemetery currently is one of 3 North Carolina state-run veteran cemeteries, and our chapter, Chapter 1, has been the Wreaths Across America coordinator for the past 6 years. We understand we have Veterans Day in the fall and Memorial Day in the spring, but our service members sacrifice their time and safety every single day of the year to preserve our freedoms. Those that are buried at Sand Hills have families that miss them every single day of the year, and Wreaths Across America is as much to do with remembering our veterans as it is about taking care of the families left behind, showing that there are some and that care and love for them. From the Revolutionary War to present-day conflicts, our veterans are devoted sons and daughters, fathers and mothers, sisters and brothers, and live or come from Hope Mills or communities just like yours. So what we're asking for is anything that the town can do. Last year, we had 1,800 wreaths, and there's over 6,000 graves there at the site. The year before, we had 5,000 plus. So we almost filled it the year before, but last year we had 1,800. So it was a poor time for people that donate and fundraise. With last year, we had a lot of floods and everything, so it was tough. So we're doing everything we can this year. We've done barbecue banquets. We're doing a car, truck, and bike show up at J.P. Riddle Stadium in October. We got gun raffle. We're doing everything we can do. So anything that the town can do, even if it's just promoting it, social media, if it can challenge the businesses to sponsor a wreath or anything at all, on your up front and maybe off to the side, the town manager has information about Wreaths Across America and the actual ceremony. Last year, even though we only had 1,800 wreaths, we had 1,200 people at our ceremony. And we had 450 the year before. So it's growing. The ceremony is very, very much growing, but our wreaths are not. And they bury there about 450 to 500 every year. So we'll be over 6,000 this year. So anything we can do, we're trying, and we're just asking for community support.
Madam Mayor.
Any questions?
sir.
We appreciate you coming out. Both my parents are buried there. As I mentioned to you guys earlier, we know Julie Bright is one of our clients. Pastor Gore's daughter lives down there across from Sonic, worked for you guys, I think 5 years, doing a wonderful job. And do you have a Facebook presence?
We do. I can get all that information to the town manager or whoever I need to give it to. And it's actually Reese Across America Sandhill State Veteran Cemetery is our website. But Reese Across America is a 501c3 national organization. We are just Rolling Thunder. We're just trying to help Reese Across America put Reese on. It's not so much for Rolling Thunder. It's actually helping Reese Across America.
Thank you.
I think this is something we could also get to the Chamber of Commerce, because where you've got the small business can purchase 10 wreaths. This would be a challenge that we could issue to the chamber, so I think that's a good thing. And then for those of us that do have family members, mine is not buried there, but they're somewhere. I'm hoping somebody will be doing the same thing there. So I would challenge the commissioners to also to get a wreath in memory or in honor of. And then I do believe this is something that I will put on my mayor's page, and then we can do that if the commissioners agree to put on the town site also. And again, I think promoting this is a good thing for our community, especially when we know we've got that many graves out there that need wreaths.
Yes, ma'am. There's Medal of Honor recipients buried there, ex-prisoner of war from World War II, and even the killed in action, recent Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as other veterans that are buried there.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
you for your time.
Thank you so much for coming. At this time, we have our we have public comments, and I do have two. There's no public hearings this evening. I do have two that have signed up for public comments. The first is Mark Bryan. If you will, come to the microphone. You have 3 minutes. You give your address and name and address, and then our town clerk will start the clock.
Thank you much. My name's Mark Bryan. Address is 3746 Colonial Coves here in Hope Mills. And basically, although the speech was written by two different people, there's some similarities with the last one and stuff. And I apologize for my attire. I spent the day surveying a basic chaplain's course. And it seems that that after retirement, basically I seem busier than ever. And as you can see, I wear many hats. Chaplain, Hope Mills CERT member, and Hope Mills VFW 10 630 post commander. So let's get with it. Basically, I'm here over the Lone Survivor Foundation and made a proposal to the town of Hope Mills. Now, I just learned this evening that it may be a dead issue and stuff, but I'm up here discussing and talking with you because what I have to say has a great deal of relevance with other things besides just the Lone Survivor. Basically, from what I understand, there was a lot of talk, and I'm not usually politically involved. Usually, it's nil. But frankly, I don't even like politics. But basically, it's been disrupting the good of the order for the VFW post here. So, I've been told that the mayor and the mayor pro tem are in the difference of opinion. This is totally unacceptable. The mayor is the elected official and was voted to represent the people of Hope Mills. And the town commissioners cannot do their job without the leadership. So this has been giving conflicted messages and resulting in bickering and infighting. Okay. Now, suicide was used to support the Lone Survivor Foundation. The proposal is short-sighted, okay? Because suicide is only part of the dynamic. Only when you look at the full and bigger picture, who was affected. In other words, the whole family. And I'm not talking about just the family I'm into account. I'm talking about I'm not talking about the traditional family. I'm talking about the society. So brother, sister, father, son, mother, daughter, military counterpart, friend, and acquaintance. Okay? If you don't look at the whole family, then the dark side of survivor may win and we will all lose. I'm talking about suicide. Okay? Remember that we only hear about the ones who completed the act. And that's only a small portion. Okay? So remember that you are here only for one purpose, and that is to represent the town of Hope Mills and should put aside your personal differences, petty bickering, and consider the greater good of the community and the whole family dynamic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, question?
Next, we have Bill Spate.
Good evening. My name is Bill Spade. I live at 4723 Legion Road. I'll quote Jack Nicholson. In the movie A Few Good Men, he made one of the most powerful statements in movie history. You can't handle the truth. Jerry Clower, a Southern comedian, made this comment in jest about his dear friend Jerry Reed. He is at his best when he is unencumbered by truth. Jerry was a dear friend of mine. Sadly, this board is afflicted by that same syndrome. You have ignored the truths and facts regarding the Lone Survivor Foundation. Bill Bowman stated the facts in his up-and-coming article. In 3 minutes, I can only reiterate some of the other truths that you have ignored. Truth: you canceled an open, transparent town meeting based on awaiting the vaunted $100,000 report addressing the number 2 area. I quote from a Tuesday, July 31st email from Rachel Cotter of the McAdams Company, sent to Commissioners Mitchell and Larson. Commissioner Mitchell and Larson expressed concern that the following properties were not in the initial assessment: Lake Bed number 2, Botanical Gardens, and Legion Road property. You guys trying to evict me and make a park out of it? Fine, I'll go to Holden Beach. Commissioner Larson notified us that we should review the 2014 PWC report, the Southwest Land Use Plan, and the 2030 plan for consistency with other planning documents. There she goes again, ignoring the PWC report already addressed and dismissed. You knew about this fact before you called the meeting, yet you ignored the truth again and did not have the integrity to share the information with those who mistakenly voted for you. Question: did this exchange create an addendum to the contract? Did it incur additional cost? Did it follow proper procedures regarding contractual issues? You other commissioners, were you included in these exchanges? You will be held accountable for the board's actions. The hiding time is over. Handle the truth. And just remember, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
That concludes public comments. We have our consent agenda this evening. I'll read the items on the consent agenda. If there's anything that you'd like moved to new business, we can do so. Consideration of the minutes of the July 23rd, 2018 regular meeting. Consideration of the minutes of the July 23rd, 2018 special meeting. Consideration of the purchase of an Amcus lightweight ion battery operated combination cutter spreader from C.W. Williams, the lowest responsible bidder, for $8,152, and this purchase is included in the current budget. Consideration of the approval for the travel of Sergeant Summers, Officer Rowland, and Officer Mendez to Richmond, Virginia to pick up a Humvee awarded by the U.S. military's Law Enforcement Support 1033 program. The cost will be $58.20. Is there anything that you'd like moved from the consent agenda to our new business? If not, do I have a motion to approve the...
Madam Mayor, I would like to pull tab 2 from the July 23rd, 2018 minutes to, I guess that will be J, under
Okay.
new business.
The item B,
Item A.
item A.
Yeah.
Item A, we're moving to, becomes
J.
item J on new business. Are there any other?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with one movement. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Under old business, the first thing that we have is consideration and adoption of proposed food truck ordinance. I'll ask Mr. McLaughlin if he'll come forward and we'll move from there.
Hello, Madam Mayor, fellow commissioners. This should be very quick. What you have before you are just the very minor changes that were made at the second work session, where we added in consistent time frames and things of that nature. Commissioner Bellflowers had mentioned that he wanted to see the actual application, so I really just put this on the agenda, more of a procedural thing to get an official approval so that we can go ahead and move forward with it. But like I said, what you see before you is very minor with respect to the last version that you received.
Are there any questions for Mr. McLaughlin in reference to the food truck ordinance?
Motion to approve.
I have a
Second.
motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed.
Thanks.
Next on our agenda is discussion of rules of procedure, and this was requested by Commissioner Larson, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Larson at this time.
So I have quite a few on my list. First, referring back to the meeting on the 23rd, speaking into the microphone, and that the board member, when they're coming up to speak to the board, they need to speak to the board and not turn around to the crowd. Suspending the rules, motion 6, that requires a 2/3 vote. So when public comments was moved, there was actually no census, there was no vote, and the public comment shouldn't have occurred. I don't know how we handled that as far as the record goes, but I know we'll be discussing the minutes of that meeting, so we will be addressing as far as the order of some of that also. But they weren't legal, the public comments, correct? Or does it need to be noted that there was no vote taken?
I think because it wasn't a required public hearing. I mean, if it were a hearing that was required and we were doing it pursuant to enacting an ordinance or something like that, then we may need to look at that issue. But since it was not a required public hearing and no action was taken.
Actually, action ended up being taken because of that, and we actually had a motion on the floor before the public comments were to begin. So there was a lot of missteps in that, which we'll get to when we get to the minutes, but
Right.
there was something that occurred because of public comments being allowed.
I would also like for you to refer to, under order of business, Rule 16. If you look at the bottom, without objection, the mayor may call agenda items in any order most convenient for the dispatch of business. And on that particular evening, because there were so many that signed up for public comments, we did have 2 commissioners that requested that we move public comments at that time when it was because there had been a motion made that was causing
And you
some
had,
issues.
and there were 3 that said no. There were 3. Mr. Legg said it first, I said it second, and then.
Mr. Legg asked for it to be moved, ma'am.
No, he said he did not want public comments. I actually have the number of the minutes, which when we get to the minutes part of the
That would
meeting.
be fine, but the mayor
but
can
it
call
is that
agenda
way.
items in any order most convenient. And I do believe that unless you were adamant about your objection, that we did this, and public comments would have been after the 2 presentations, which would have fallen in the order where they are tonight. You'd had another
I'll
presentation.
ask council for, because motion 6 does not read that way, to suspend the rules.
Right. Well,
It requires a
think
vote.
If there was objection to moving the agenda around, then it wouldn't
And
have
there
been
was.
proper to do it.
And there
because
was.
The rule says without objection. And then Rule 6, I agree that, if we're going to move things around and there is objection, then there would need to be a vote. But I don't think that, I it's not the way it should have been done, but I don't think that invalidates having public comments, because those public comments were not directed to any particular action. You know, it wasn't required for any particular action of the board. I understand we later took action on having a public hearing or not having a public hearing, but the board has not voted either way. other
We'll
than
kind of
the
address that when we
consensus.
get to the actual meeting minutes.
Yeah.
The other one was, and I spoke to you earlier today about this, on closed session Rule 5. On the July 4th meeting, we advertised NCGS 143-318.11A and 4, and we missed number C was not added to that, which reads, "No other person may attend a closed session unless invited by the majority vote of the council." And that was not added to that as well.
For the June 4th meeting.
June 4th meeting. The other one, when we adopted these rules, we said we're going to try to stay as close as possible to Trey Allen's book. Rule number 21, the word "not" is left out of our rules of procedure. And because our mayor does not vote, it would only seem logical that she would not be able to make a motion as well. But that is something the board will have to decide how they feel about that. Would be Rule 21. But Trey Allen's does read the word "not."
As I recall, I think that's one of those where the "not" is
In parentheses,
which means
correct.
it's up to the board which way you want to go. So it's totally the will of the board on that.
Do we need a motion on that? or-
I make a motion that we change Rule 21 to add the word "not."
I'll second that motion because I read it that way as well.
Okay, we have a motion and a second that on Rule 21, that it states that any member may make a motion, not including the mayor. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any
Wait a
other
minute, wait a minute,
discussion?
Let me understand that. Including the mayor?
Not,
Okay,
not.
okay.
The mayor, if you want to reword it, you can say, not the mayor.
Okay, I just want to make
The way
sure
it's
I
worded
wasn't hearing
here,
you
it says any member may make a motion, including the mayor. So if you want to take the not including, or if you just want to say the mayor can't make motions.
wrong.
So
Call for the vote.
how do you want this worded? Because this will become part of our rules of procedure, which will have to follow us.
I think just as Trey Allen has it.
I'm looking at what we've got written in our book on page 13.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Larson, what does Trey Allen say regarding this rule directly from the manual?
Trey Allen, if I may,
Yes, sir.
Trey Allen is a gentleman from the North Carolina League of
Yes.
Municipalities area that writes these rules and procedures that we adopt from time to time.
Except as otherwise provided in these rules, the council shall act by motion. Any member may make a motion, not including the mayor.
So just
Okay.
add not where we said.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion that we change the action of the council to include not including the mayor under Rule 21 in your Rules of Procedure book. That's page 13. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed? Seeing none. Okay. More?
Nope, that's it.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I've got
sir.
one, I'll address rule number 22. Right underneath that, second not required, no second is required on any motion. And on July 23rd, I had a motion on the floor, and it was noted in the minutes it died for lack of a second.
You had a second.
We had a second, and Commissioner Legg withdrew the second, but my motion still was valid and should have been subject to vote according to our own rules that are readily available at our website. It's on page 13.
Page 13. Second not required. Any other discussion in reference to that one? Duly noted.
Yeah, I've always believed that we had to have a second. And I think we should have to have a second.
I think under the old rules of procedure, that was the case, and then we adopted the new ones and sort of kept along the same path with you know, that had been the pattern and practice of the board, but it's, under the rules, it is not required that you have a second for a motion.
Well, if we're
But
gonna go
again,
by the
it's
rule
the
book,
will
let's
of
go
the
by the
board
rule book.
for How you wanna have it set up.
Okay, so we're going to.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I would ask Commissioner Larson again to read directly from Trey Allen.
Trey Allen, it does not require a second.
Does not require a second, okay?
Okay, so we have,
You have a vote, but no second
Okay.
is required.
all right, so from here forth, any motion that's made, we'll just vote on it without a second. Is that correct? If we follow this rule, so we don't need to vote on this, it's written. So no seconds are required on any motion, you just take a vote following the motion.
After
Next.
discussion.
After discussion, yes, sir. Discussion after the motion. Anything else? Is that it for this area? All right. Next thing on the agenda is discussion of the audio-video recording of Board of Commissioners meetings, and this is requested by Commissioner Larson.
Ms. Starling actually corrected a big area of not being able to hear it the second go-round on the 23rd meeting. But I did want to ask, since we start the meeting and we go into closed session, the meeting is still going on. I would assume that the town is still taping the room, and I wanted to see I want to be able to see the entire.
I turned the recorder off. That if for
Isn't,
practice.
but we're not adjourned from the meeting.
I guess the meeting is still in session, but there's no meeting occurring in the room, so I guess it's not recorded for that reason.
I don't-
Usually it would
Yeah.
just be a
That
blank
was-
tape.
that
You
was
know,
your
obviously,
desire.
in light of what happened, the other meetings, that probably would have been a good idea. Of course, you didn't have any, you were back there with us, so you didn't know.
And I don't know if I know in other boards' meetings that the meeting stops when they go into a closed session and the meeting starts back when they come back out. So I'm not so sure that that's something that you normally would do. I don't have a problem with it, but I'm still concerned that that's not, I don't think you would have, if we were back there for 2 hours, you wouldn't have a recording going on for the total time.
I think the concern for me was some of the things that I was told was said to some of the Hope Mills people, and I wanted to hear it for myself.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
How do we have to pay for these meetings? Do we pay for hours, minutes, nightly?
There's no charge.
charge.
There's
We
no
don't
charge at
pay.
this time.
If
Yeah,
we,
we don't-
when it goes to that, how will we have to pay for it?
We voted not to do this after this budget time, that
Okay,
we're not,
So we're gonna drop it.
right, there's no,
That's good.
we agreed through budget that this was something that we could still do our own recordings, and it can be posted on the website and YouTube, but it would not be through the TV channel any longer. Any other discussion in reference to this? Okay, the next we have is discussion and recommendations of the multimodal congestion plan. You have before you a copy of the multimodal congestion plan. This is public record now. It is online, and we do have hard copies that I brought back from my FAMPO meeting, which I attended this past week. And I do have the remaining copies, so there can be one on file in this room, and then one for any other department heads that may need it. And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention this evening is multifaceted. One is that this plan, we received the money through FAMPO, which is Fayetteville Area Municipal Transportation, Fayetteville Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is for transportation. I have sat on this the entire time that I've been mayor of Hope Mills, and the important part of this is that This particular study was done at the cost of DOT and through FAMPO. It was awarded to us, the money was awarded to us in 2013 by Mr. Eichson, who at that time was the director. It took them until currently in order to get this going. It's the amount of money, $150,000 and $175,000 stayed in the DOT budget until they completed this study. The reason I bring this tonight is because if you'll notice, and I bring this to the attention of the commissioners on page 82, this study has, and I marked this in your book with a paper clip so it'd be easy to locate, they have identified 20 current crossing areas in our town that could possibly and potentially be where we need crosswalks for pedestrians and bicyclists. The problem that we have in Hope Mills right now is that, yes, we have a traffic issue, but we also have a pedestrian issue, especially down at the lake. What I have found through the meeting that I was at is that we currently have the possibility of, it's called a Transportation Alternatives Grant. This is a grant that we can apply for in order to put these, sometimes they call them like they have at the beach where they have the flashing lights that you push a button and it flashes and all traffic has to stop, or there's different types, but they've identified what would work best at the different intersections. And for our citizens that don't have a copy of this, what they've done is that by their study, they've picked the 20 most prevalent places where we need help getting pedestrians across the street. In some cases, we can't do anything until some of the road work is complete, such as up McDonald's and that area, but we can do some things in the areas that are now being used heavily, which would be on Main Street. It would also be in areas up here around the ballpark. The grant application is through FAMPO, through DOT. It would be something that the town could apply for now. The applications are due the close of business on August 31st, 2018, and this is something that we've identified through this study that we can apply for any one of these grants. Any one of these sites, and you could apply for more than one. There's $1.2 million available. All the small towns, municipalities have this grant available to them, so naturally those that submit the best plans and the most documentation is the one that will probably get the grant. As I give you that information to the board, I also want to give you something else, which is item C, and this was really to be tied into multimodal. Heritage Park Walkway, we have a conceptual drawing, a conceptual plan of a walkway for Heritage Park that would go from Lakeview up to Legion Road. This too could be part of this grant application. The reason being is it can be used for those senior citizens, children, and those with disabilities, and it would also keep them have the ability to walk along a natural resource. It does not necessarily have to be tied to any plan, but what would it benefit us would be it would help in the plan because we already have a conceptual drawing, and that conceptual drawing can be used. The other thing that I bring to about this walkway is that we also have in that Heritage Park plan a walkway or a bridge from Heritage Park over to the church site and the parsonage site. Since we no longer have that identified as an area that we're going to have a museum, the suggestion was that we request additional walkways and pedestrian areas in the Lake Park area and in Trade Street area so that we can move people more efficiently. And we can also apply for that by saying that in lieu of the walkway going from Heritage Park over to the church, we use the current pedestrian walkway as a way you traverse the creek across without being on the roadway. So I bring that to your attention also. Those two items and others that we may be able to locate within this plan, I request respectfully that the Board of Commissioners ask our staff if they would consider moving forward on these, because this is money that is available, and we do stand a very good chance of receiving money for any of these, but most importantly, especially for the crosswalks.
Madam Mayor, I'll
Yes,
make
sir.
that motion. That we go ahead and pursue and submit for these grants for the congestion plan for Heritage Park and for the church area.
Okay.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I had some
Okay.
discussion. Because we're covering three 3 tabs here, I guess.
I put, there really should have been one tab. It would have been B and C together. We're not down to the parsonage yet. I got more on that one.
We're not at the parsonage?
No, sir, I'm just covering B and C, which is the 2 I made note of. And the reason why is those 2 were actually, one is for the pedestrian walkways, and the other would be for the walkway for Heritage Park.
So the motion is specifically for assistance with the crosswalks in the Heritage Park walkway at this time?
Yes, sir.
Included in the multimodal congestion plan?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We can request that now.
Yes, sir. This grant needs to be written before August 31st. And the reason that it's important is because this is the time of year that if we submit grants, chances are some of the other municipalities are not. That's how we got sidewalk grant, is we got the grant in ahead of the others. And in our particular case, by having this plan that DOT and FAMPO initiated, we've already got a step ahead because we got documentation here.
That's a supporting
Yeah,
document
this is
for
the
the grant.
supporting document for
For
the
the
grant.
grant submission.
And
Yes, sir.
Also, Madam Mayor, on the Heritage Park walkway, do we have a conceptual design?
We do. We have a conceptual drawing that was done in, Ms. Hall, maybe you can help me on the date on that. I know that we
85?
got it through.
The county planning board did one for us about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes, ma'am.
That's still good.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
And that conceptual drawing can be used because it naturally, if it's approved, then you have to get the engineering plans and everything done. But the idea is we've got something we can use for documentation. And that would benefit us because this would also aid us in moving forward with some of the plans we have for recreation.
Thank you.
Do we need to back up and add this onto that motion?
I think the motion was.
No, I covered it.
Covered.
Okay.
So we have a motion, a second, if, with any other discussion. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed, your left hand. And I will give this application to Ms. Adams and then whoever best needs to take care of this. But I think urgency would be to try to get it in as soon as we can so that we can beat the rest of the ones that might want to. And this is the first time they've had this much money available for something like this. Normally it runs around $300,000 to $400,000, but $1.2 million is available for grant offerings at this particular time. The next thing I have is what I put on the agenda, and the reason why I did this is strictly by concern of some citizens. We do have the parsonage that belongs to the town. It was donated to us by the Episcopal Diocese. It is something that is currently not being used for any reason, and mainly it's sitting there and it's deteriorating. The main thing and the main request that has come to me is that would we not benefit if we made that site look better? Even though we're not using the inside of it, but make the exterior look better so that we could put something up there as far as what this building is, even to include something about the church that sits next door that currently is back with the heirs of who donated to the Episcopal Diocese. But my concern is, I too agree. We personally, we've put wreaths on it before. We've decorated, didn't do it this year as much as we have done in the past, but right now it's just sitting there and it's very vacant looking, it's very sad looking. So I would just ask this board, if nothing more, if you just pay attention to it and if there's some way that we could do something to make it more appealing and at least put something there so that people know what it is. Most people don't know. New citizens to Hope Mills don't know what it is.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I will suggest that the Historic Preservation Committee take the lead and bring some suggestions back to the board.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, actually, I'm the liaison for the Hope Mills Preservation Commission, and those recommendations were reiterated about a month ago, that the building be raised and a smaller fellowship type hall with public restrooms be built, and to try to repurpose whatever woods or materials from that location, as well as the one on Fountainhead Lane when that's torn down, for additional parking for our lake park, and to try to keep it somewhat, as much as possible, historically correct. And that was the recommendation from the Historical Preservation Commission about a month ago.
Can we not do something in the meantime, though? That's a concern, is the meantime.
Are we
while
just
it sits
thinking
there.
cosmetic-wise?
Cosmetic, and the thing is.
Trimming the bushes,
Trimming the
putting wreaths
bushes.
up, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Even the thought was to remove that boarded handicap ramp since we're not using it. But it's just, it's not very attractive, and it is part of our history. And as we let it sit there, if there was just look like we care about it. And right now it doesn't necessarily look like we care about it. Even if we're going to raise it, if it's going to be torn down, at least in the meantime, we can make it more representative of our community. And I don't know if it's the appearance committee should work on it, historical preservation committee, or if it's just something we need to get volunteers and go out there and clean the yard. I just, feel we need to do something in recognition of the fact that that is a building that belongs to the town.
It's
Any
also
other-
known as the Parish House, I think.
Yes.
Parish House.
Would you need a
May I
motion
ask
for
a
that?
question?
Well, I'm
Madam
just
Mayor?
wondering, yes, sir.
Mr. Mitchell, you spoke of having a smaller complex put there, maybe with bathrooms and things in it. Would that be to aid the people that are gathering downtown for functions, so they'll have a place for restrooms?
And again, I think it's included in the comprehensive Parks and Rec plan with Rachel Cotter's group with McAdams. Heritage Park, as far as I know, is included. And that includes that area over there. There's supposed to be a bridge of some sort to come across the creek to the backside of that property.
Correct, correct.
And there's no
Supposed to be a
bathrooms.
new bridge across there, isn't there?
That's in the conceptual drawing.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if folks were to use the chapel or a wedding venue or otherwise, there's no restrooms available there. So it would be nice to have public restrooms right next door.
Yeah, because everything there is gonna have to be updated, go to ADA.
And we have a lot of people park on that catty corner across from Glenn Stockwell's store. So it would be nice to have some public restrooms for our citizens close by.
I agree with that.
They're ADA compliant.
Madam Mayor? Maybe in the meantime, since we're getting ready to enter into the holiday season, especially fall and Christmas, if we could, maybe the appearance committee would be best suited as for, taking it through while we make the plans for further things to go on.
I think if you go and look, it's got the two bases for an old bench that used to be there, so those probably need to be taken away. It's just, cosmetically, it just looks like it's just been forgotten. So I think that would be the thing, and if the appearance committee would take that on, that would probably be a good thing from now.
Would you please ask the Appearance Commission if they have the money back in their budget again to do it? Because at one time, I think they were kind of depleted.
At this time, we do.
At this time, you do.
Let me put that in committee,
Okay.
and then I will, which I don't see any problems with us taking that on.
Okay.
But I'll carry it to the committee.
All right, thank you,
Certainly, I
ma'am.
would think our
Thank you.
staff
Thank you.
could help with, if there's some heavy materials that need to be moved.
Yeah.
I think Don's crew could probably handle that, if that's okay with town manager.
Yeah. So maybe let the committee make some recommendations, because I think your committee could go there and look at some things that you might think would make an improvement. Okay, all right, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, board. The last thing that I have that I put on the agenda this evening, and I think this is important that I wanted to reiterate to the board, the Coleman County Mayor's Coalition, along with our Coleman County Commissioners, are sponsoring not only an ethics training for local government officials on Thursday, August the 9th, but also an economic development presentation about how our county can work together unified. This is the first time that in Cumberland County that they'll have every elected official under the same roof. And what they're planning for this is the actual ethics training is just a piece because of some of the things that have been going on in our county, and they felt like this would be a reason for drawing everybody together, and we do have to have that training, even though our board had that at our training that we went to early on. The other piece of this is to talk about our county-wide plans, because we are now looking at developing anything we do as Cumberland County. Fayetteville has been getting the lion's share of everything every time there's a big development, and they've decided that what we are going to do as mayors and as commissioners, and that's including the Fayetteville mayor. The Fayetteville mayor, which is the one that we've always had to work closely with and have often found that we've been excluded, everyone's on board. It's a unified group. This training takes place Thursday, August the 9th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., followed by lunch together at 12 p.m. And this is, at this point in time, I'm asking my board to please reconsider and attend. I do not believe this is anything that would not benefit us. I believe it would also be a good effort at team building. It would also be a good effort to join the other local officials in our county to include every mayor, every alderman, every city councilman, every state representative, every senator, every county commissioner, every town clerk, and every town manager has been invited. And so I just request again that you reconsider and that you attend. And that's all I have. Next thing on the agenda is consideration of acceptance of annexation request, consideration and approval of resolution number 2018-15, Dirtbag L's annexation, and directing the town clerk to investigate sufficiency. So, any comments in reference to that?
Any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
I don't have the visual concept of that yet because I haven't been there. So how is the layout of that land and where is it located in regards to Tom Starling Road or?
It's on Corporation Drive.
Or Corporation
It's on
Drive?
Corporation Drive. It's in the area that we gained in our MIA when we gained exit 41 and the land in that area.
It's next to H&H, what is it, H&H Body Shop, yeah. It's right next to that, the property's right
Yeah, I
next
know
to
where
that.
that's at.
On Corporation Drive.
Any other discussion in reference to this? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to go ahead and annex Dirtbag L's annexation request.
I'll second it.
Respectfully,
It's a
the
resolution.
motion needed is
Sufficiency.
to, I'm sorry, the motion needed at this time is to accept the annexation and approve the resolution directing the clerk to investigate. The next motion will be,
Ah, yes.
yeah, I'm sorry.
So I'll make the motion to accept the annexation, a motion to adopt the resolution directing the clerk to investigate the annexation petition received under General Statute 160A-31 as needed.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right or left hand.
Oh, I got a choice.
You got a choice. The next thing is have consideration approval of resolution number 2018-16, Dirtbag L's annexation, and to set a public hearing date.
I'll make the motion to go ahead and approve the annexation petition associated with proposed Dirtbag L development.
Second.
And to
What date
set
would
the
that
public
be?
hearing date.
And to set the public hearing date.
For August the 20th at 7 p.m.
August the 20th
Is that enough time for you to get?
7 p.m.
Yes, it
Is
is.
that enough time for Jan to get all her work done?
Yes,
And I'll
I've already
second
actually done this,
Okay, thank you.
I think it's already
Okay,
done.
so I have a motion and a second to set the hearing date at August the 20th at 7 p.m. and to approve resolution number 2018-16, Dirtbag L's annexation. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next, we have consideration repair to fire department medical squad estimated to be between $10,000 to $11,000. So turn this over to Ms. Adams.
Are there any questions? The fire department has indicated that they will be able to get at least another 10 and possibly longer, maybe 15 years out of this vehicle if it's repaired. So,
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to
Second.
approve. I have a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next, we have discussion and consideration of Lake Park ordinance amendment to set a scheduled swimming season to include Memorial Day through Labor Day. And this was requested by Commissioner Bellflowers.
Thank you, Mayor. As we were looking through setting dates for the swimming area down at the lake, at least I thought that maybe perhaps this would be a good time to go ahead and identify the appropriate period of swimming down at the lake from Memorial Day weekend, or beginning at Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend, to keep in line with other pools and parks throughout the county and state. So my motion is that we amend the lake ordinance and set a scheduled swimming season to begin Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend and end.
Yeah, is that Memorial Day or Memorial Day weekend?
Memorial Day weekend.
The weekend. Well, that's
'Cause
usually
it's
a
a Monday.
Monday,
It's a
so
Monday.
it'll kick off on Saturday.
That's before that Monday.
Yeah, before that Monday.
The
It'll
weekend
open
before.
on that Saturday, I'm not sure what day that'll be, but
You could just say
Memorial Day weekend.
that's
Memorial
what I
Day
did say.
weekend.
Memorial Day weekend.
Have,
And it'll end,
Labor Day
Labor Day
weekend.
weekend.
Whatever week.
Which is always a Monday too,
Yeah.
so it'll
has
end on that
anyone
day.
spoken with Mr. Bullock about those dates and times, if there's a problem with them?
No, sir, that's some of the things we had thought about earlier, is keeping it in conjunction with all the others, instead of that, we're having a lake attendant down there October 31st to tell people they can't swim.
Yeah.
Is that gonna interfere any way, shape, or form with the contract for the, Big T's?
No, sir.
Okay.
The lake will still
Well,
be
that-
open, it's just, you won't
No
have
swimming.
The lake park will be open,
Yeah.
but the swimming area will close.
You think
Oh.
so?
Well, officially it will, but still swim at your own risk.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll close.
So that's my motion, Mayor.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
I have a motion to change the operating hours so that it would be starting Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend, which would change us from April 1st through September 30th in our regular lake ordinance. So anyone else have any discussion in reference to this? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Next thing on our agenda is consideration of approval to purchase an F-250 from Piedmont Truck Center. It was approved in the 18-19 budget, and the vendor is approved on state contract. And this was behind tab 17. Any,
I'll make a motion that we approve this since it was part of our budget.
have a
I'll
motion,
second.
have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. The next thing on our agenda was added to our agenda, and this is a discussion of the up-and-coming agreement.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to have a discussion with the fellow commissioners. I don't feel like the up-and-coming is supporting our board. We are collectively a board, one team, and I don't think we need to be paying for negativity. I'm sure we get enough of that for free. But I'll make a motion that we end all agreements with Up and Coming Weekly, including the pocket gun.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Yes, ma'am. Because I also think we've been treated unfairly by the up and coming. Not a good word from that man about Hope Mills. So I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I have a discussion.
Okay.
I know there's been a lot of articles in the up and coming. I know the editor himself has written articles on his own, but there's been a lot of articles in the up and coming that's been very informative to Hope Mills. And the way it stands right now, everybody needs a voice or news media. And the only news media that a lot of us have would be the up and coming, because we don't have that much support from the Sandspur.
I think we have a lot of support from the Sandspur. We've got sports editors there. We've got other things that are printed there, even following this board sometimes. And Bruce Armstrong does a great job in supporting our town sports programs. And I just think that Sanford does an outstanding job. That's my favorite part of the newspaper.
Okay, but this time we should be discussing up and coming, so if we can just move to the
Madam Mayor,
motion that's on the table.
My question is, doesn't the contract end at the end of this month?
For the publication. of the month.
Doesn't it?
September.
Weekly
It
publication.
ends, it ends the
Yeah,
end of this
it ends
month.
at September.
Right.
Have we paid them for the remainder of the contract? Oh, well. See, I don't
Drew
know.
stepped out. I don't think so. I think we've still got outstanding balance that we need to pay.
There would be.
We
what?
haven't paid them for September, I know that.
Okay,
We
but-
probably have not paid them for August
Okay.
as well. And I don't know if we've even received anything for July yet.
Okay, but the contract will end for sure September,
Yes, sir.
because we didn't vote to extend it or budget it for next year.
Correct.
So that's the question, have we paid the up and coming? And Drew's back, so he should be able to tell me.
Drew's here, maybe he can answer those questions.
Say your question one more time, please.
Drew, have we paid the up and coming for August and September?
We pay it quarterly,
Quarterly, okay.
and this would be the last quarter. So we've already received the invoice, but we haven't had it fulfilled yet.
Okay.
So once that's complete, which was it, first week of September, I think?
Right.
So there's only like a month, 3 to 4 weeks left of the original agreement.
If the board approves to discontinue the contract, then that will be prorated from.
I'm sure it'll be prorated up to whatever point we're at, because they may have already done next week's issue. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually a week or two ahead.
Yeah, so I don't know what they would already have that we'd be committed to at this point. Actually, we're committed to September, but
Is there a written contract?
No.
No, there's no
There's no written.
30-day termination or anything here. It's just, we can stop it.
And if I might, how does the pocket guide billing work?
It's not.
that
till
is on an
November.
annual basis.
Yes,
That's already been
November.
paid for. It's already done for this year.
It comes back anew again, I think in November or December.
Yeah.
When they renew it, it has to come back to the board for approval for that
That was
renewal.
approved, yes.
Yeah.
That's on a calendar year.
Yeah. So
It's
we-
already
it-
been approved?
Yes, for
For the
this year.
following?
That's already been
for the-
approved and
for
print-
Nove-
we
The one that will
got
come
'em.
back in November.
Yeah, we've got them sitting all over town. Now, I don't know what day specifically it was approved,
Right.
but it was approved and they've already been printed and paid for. And that lasts for a year.
Yeah. But it comes back to the board by contract for the board's approval, so you just, when it comes back for approval, that would be when you would vote to not approve it.
Thank you. Call for vote.
Okay, we have a vote to discontinue the up-and-coming agreement effective today.
Correct.
Okay. And what is there, I guess I need to ask the attorney this, since they print a week out, I know that they're working probably on 2 weeks out. I don't know if that's.
I would assume what we would do, if there's no written contract, I mean, probably the cleanest way to do it would be to let them know that whatever work they have done to date, we'll pay for, but we don't want them to do any work going forward. And that way, you know, that should resolve any outstanding disputes of.
There was nothing in writing. It was a handshake deal.
Right, so then there's no, it wouldn't be like a breach of contract for us to say we don't want to keep going.
So I'll make a friendly amendment to addendum according to our town attorney's advice.
Okay, so I have a motion that we discontinue and added to that we cover that which is already in production. And then no more. So I have a motion, I have a second.
Yes.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. And opposed, we have a 4-1. Okay, the next thing was added, the minutes of July 23rd, 2018. And I guess since we don't have hard copies, or I don't have a hard copy, we need to refer to
That was
the tab.
Yeah.
because we don't have it
Tab
before
two.
us.
They're under tab 2.
Yeah,
So
they're under
you'll
tab
go to
two.
tab 2. Thank you again for being here, and do come back. Okay, and if you will, I guess, if you've got your computer up, where would you like to start?
So I know that obviously this was a difficult meeting for Ms. Starling to follow to do the minutes, because I only did 9 minutes of them and they were completely out of order. So I did make timestamps of watching the video for each person when they spoke, but the way it reads now, it's reading that when we go to the motion by Commissioner Mitchell, right above the consensus was held for the public comment segment, Mr. Mitchell made the motion at 53:50 to reject the offer. And my question to our attorney is, when someone speaks out of without being recognized, well, I guess they did get recognized, but they were standing in the room, and we know who they are, should that not be noted in the minutes?
It's kind of a judgment call, I suppose. Usually that would not be noted if it was not part of the meeting. If there's an outburst from the
But if they
crowd,
were recognized?
then it probably ought to be noted. But again, I think it's probably a judgment call. But if someone is recognized to speak, then it probably should be noted in the minutes. Yes.
Because when I read the minutes, this doesn't really reflect what happened in that 23rd meeting at all. So at 53:38 was when Commissioner Legg stated that he did not want the public comments, and Mitchell and myself rejected public comments. And at 55:55, Legg seconded Mitchell's motion. At 56:25, the mayor took a census of the audience and asked who supported the presentation. At 57:12, mayor allows the people to sign up without the 2/3 vote. At 57:50, Legg withdraws the motion. And then under our public comments, the first person, Miss Danita Gilliland, she actually spoke prior to the beginning of the public comments where Kyle Yarbrough started. I mean, this is just a 9-minute period that was completely different than what is, and trust me, it took me like an hour and a half to keep going back and forth to figure out what was going on because it was so chaotic. So I'll give you my sheet but I just think that the minutes as it stands right now really don't reflect the order of the way the meeting was conducted. And because we're not able to hear parts of it on the audio, I think it's really important that the written part be able to be the fillers. So
Already
May I
mentioned
ask
on that Rule
specifically?
22, whatever, I like that struck, that the motion died for lack of a second. Just whatever, no action was taken based on the motion. A legitimate motion.
we had 2 motions on the floor at one time because Mr. Mitchell's motion was never taken to vote.
And that's
And then
totally
yeah.
my ignorance on that part.
Well,
because
it
I
was,
didn't
when you're
realize-
listening to it, it's very difficult. I had to, like I said, I'm not trying to come down on you because it took me, just that 9 minutes took me a good hour and a half just to do 9 minutes of it, and that was almost 2.5 hours. So going back and forth trying to figure out what was going on. So I just would ask the board that maybe a little more time would be spent to get some more of the details. And I certainly can pass you all my notes, and I have the time marks on just this section, that they reflect more closely to what occurred on the 23rd.
Do you have specific
She does.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And-
And I'll pass that off to you. You
Can
read
I
my-
respectfully ask
Yes.
that if there is an issue with something, the minutes, or if you could just give us, a little prior warning, then we could have listened to the
Well, this is
audio
obviously
and-
going to take a lot longer
um,
than just listening to it because it's quite a few. And I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but as I was trying to figure
But
out
it
some of
does-
the things. Well, it put me
it
on the
does
spot on the 23rd too.
It does put staff on the spot, and if
Well,
you,
I
if you could-
apologize that
if you
anyone
could-
feels that way.
If you could run that by me, and then I can address it with Ms. Starling.
And also, if you'll
Um,
listen to that video, you'll also notice if you'll go to Rule 17, it's Rule 17, but it's under role of presiding officer, recognition of members. A member must be recognized by the mayor in order to address the council. And I will remind you that many times you speak out before I recognize you. From here forth, I will follow this rule also. And if it says, but recognition is not necessary, it says for an appeal pursuant. In other words, if I don't recognize you, you can't appeal it by Rule 31, Motion 1. It also says that the mayor is to enforce these rules and maintain order and decorum during council meetings. And again, if you'll read under there about parliamentary procedures, and that I can rule out of order any motion clearly offered for obstructive or dilatory purposes. And I can also determine whether a member or other speaker has gone beyond reasonable standards of courtesy in his or her remarks, entertain and rule an objection from other members of this ground. Again, I think as the mayor's responsibilities as presiding officers, I may not have done the best job on the 23rd, but I did not do as well as I should have done on the 23rd by following rules even to this board. So I do let you know that I have highlighted my book and duly noted anything that I need to correct, and I will pay close attention that from here forth I will follow the rules also. And I truly believe that in the case of the minutes, they're on our agenda, and we could have requested our staff to look at those minutes prior to this meeting so that we didn't, especially our new town clerk. I think it's awkward to have to be addressed when you're new to the board. Anything else in reference to those minutes that we need to address at this time?
It should be noted there is a correction that Ms. Starling made. I think she made you a copy of them concerning the Cumberland County Joint Planning Board. It was incorrectly listed as Cumberland County Board of Commissioners, and those have been corrected.
And that's this page that's at our seat, and it's got it in
Right.
red.
Thank you.
It's on page 5.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, do we need to approve those minutes, or do you want to wait till they've been corrected and then come back and approve
We'll
them?
bring them back for
Bring them back at the
approval.
next meeting. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you,
Appreciate
Madam
it.
Mayor.
All right, the next thing on our agenda would be the manager's report. I'll turn it over to Ms. Adams for that report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Board of Commissioners. I have requested that Mr. Stephen Fleming attend the August 20th Board of Commissioners meeting to make his presentation of the proposed bulkhead down at the Lake Park. He was unavailable to attend tonight's meeting, and that's why he's not at this meeting, and it was not placed on the agenda. Update to the Johnson Street sidewalk. Public Works met with McGill Associates on July 16th. The design is 90% completed and has been provided to PWC for their review. As of today's date, we're awaiting PWC comments. Rockfish Road sidewalk, a survey of the area was completed the week of July 23rd, and we are awaiting survey CAD files to evaluate and develop a solution. This request for the speed limit change for North Main Street. Interim Public Works Director Don Cisco has spoken to Mike Griffin, the Division Traffic Engineer at NCDOT. They are studying the portion of Hope Mills Fayetteville corridor from Camden Road to George Owen Road. That portion of Main Street, Highway 59, is included because of traffic light timing and traffic loop size and location as part of the Camden Road intersection. So it's been indicated to us that it may be a while before they make any changes to that speed limit sign. The town hall HVAC system, the system installation is projected within the next 2 weeks. Parks and Rec building mold roof repair was completed on August 1st. The new proposed public safety building, stakeholders and NCDOT met on August the 2nd to discuss access and egress from Rockfish Road and Gulfview Road in relation to the projected widening of those roadways. Schnabel Engineering was on site July 26 to inspect the dam structure, and no issues were noted. Last week, the July 30th through August 3rd, 74 code violations were investigated, and of those 74 cases, 18 were found to be in compliance. Action Pathways has contacted me and requested that Planning and Development Administrator Chancellor McLaughlin be allowed to serve on their board of directors. Action Pathways does not require approval from the town for any appointment. However, he is a town employee, and they have requested permission from me as town manager. Mr. McLaughlin is willing to serve on their board of directors, and I am planning to notify Action Pathways that I have no issue with him serving on their board. The Fort Bragg Garrison Deputy Garrison Commander, Justin Mitchell, came to visit me last week. Mr. Mitchell is interested in attending either the September 10th or the October 8th regular Board of Commissioners meeting to give the State of Fort Bragg presentation to the board. Just a friendly reminder, National Night Out is tomorrow night, August the 7th, and we have numerous staff volunteering to assist in that endeavor for the police department, including myself. The next food truck rodeo is scheduled for August the 16th from 5 to 8 p.m. It is also a fundraising effort to help support the Fay One initiative for back to school. The town will be partnering and collecting back to school items as well as donations of food, of course, for the almshouse. The items for donation for back to school are pens, pencils, notebook paper, wired composition books, and pocket folders. The items for the food pantry needed are bottled water, single-serve cereal boxes, ramen noodles, fruit snacks, microwave pasta or soups, and gallon-sized Ziploc freezer bags. In addition, representatives from McAdams will be in attendance to finish collecting data for the Parks and Rec needs assessment. And finally, Building Inspector Kenny Tatum, everybody knows him as Kenny, has received his North Carolina Building Level 2 Inspector designation. And that is all that I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you have before you any other dates that are pertinent to our board, so if you...
There are numerous.
There's numerous things the
on
board
the-
can look at. At this time, we have committee liaisons update on committee activities, and I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell and Historic Preservation Commission.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Historic Preservation Commission meets bi-monthly, and we didn't have a meeting last month, but we do have one scheduled Wednesday at 5 o'clock at the Parks and Rec. Public is invited. And that's all we've got to report.
Commissioner Edwards and the Lake Advisory Committee.
The Lake Advisory Committee met July 17th. They were talking about the eel ladder and said that in the 3-month period they had 229 eels. And they were talking about getting Fleming Associates to get together about a new bulkhead and to get 2 sets of steps out of the wooded area. And I don't know exactly where they're talking about there, but I guess they knew. They wanted to see about different types of launching for the kayaks, and they asked about the grass and sprinkling system. And they were talking to Kenny about application of speedboat. And I don't know what they're talking about there, Kenny. I thought we didn't have speedboats. Okay. They also were going to have a change of officers, but Rob McLean resigned, and there was nobody else that would take his position. but they have 2 new people coming on board, and they're hoping one of them would take it. And, Mike Ryan said they've more or less come to a halt as to what they can do right now, but anyway, he suggested they start working on lake bed number 2.
Okay. Commissioner Legg and the Appearance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum to hold a meeting last month.
Okay. And Commissioner Larson, Parks and Rec Committee.
We met July 30th. They elected Sally Bailey as the chair and Linda Summers as the vice chair. We talked about dogs in the park, which what we decided to do is bring back how the votes went for you all. So at the lake park, it was 3 no's for dogs, 1 yes, and 1 undecided. In Heritage Park, it was unanimous that they would like dogs at Heritage Park. I will note that one member who works in Fayetteville, Parks and Rec, said that theirs is the opposite of ours, where the dogs are allowed in the park but not on the tracks. So they have more or less a little more openness to it, where they allow the dogs to come, and unless there is some type of disturbance that they feel that the dog is threatening or is a nuisance of some sort. So that was kind of interesting, the viewpoint. I think they were very open to allowing dogs in Heritage Park, though. We do have 1 opening on the Parks and Rec Committee, and on the 17th and the 24th, it's either the 17th or the 24th. We're still undecided on the date, Kenny, for old school music celebration down by the lake.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Commissioner Bellflowers, the Veterans Committee, and RULAC.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to ask Commissioner Edwards, 229 eels
In 3 months,
in 3 months.
all sizes from 2 inches to, I think, 12.
That's really something. 229 eels. Anyway, RULAC is going to meet on the 16th of August at the Spring Lake Family Resource Center, Mayor. And the program is going to consist of a draft joint land use study, an update regarding continued land protection efforts underway with the surrounding areas of Fort Bragg and Camp McCall, and a special presentation by the Fort Bragg's Deputy Garrison Commander on the state of Fort Bragg and other related business items. And that will be on August 16th, and I'll attend that. Veterans Affairs Commission met and discussed Heroes Homecoming and the schedule, to finalize that schedule. And with that said, that meeting is Friday, this coming Friday, August 10th, of course, at the headquarters library building downtown, 11:30, and that'll finalize the list of the municipalities for Heroes Homecoming. I've also asked that the chair of the Veterans Affairs Commission schedule a presentation before the board to detail the plan for the Heroes Homecoming event for our community, and that will happen maybe August 20th, because then we need a joint meeting of all the players in our town to meet, and we'll talk about that one. Last, I want to make sure I'm right. Oh yeah, 7 members of the committee would like to attend the Sand Hills Purple Heart Dinner at the Crown Coliseum on August 18th, and I turned that number in to Jane today, and for a long period of time, the town will have now a representation of a table of veterans from our community attending such a prestigious honor, honoring our Purple Heart recipients at the dinner. And that's my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. I attended FAMPO on the 25th of July in reference to multimodal congestion plan was on their agenda, and also was included the proposals for our new points for a region. Some of that information you'll be getting, and others of the information is just for the committee to take a look at. And we also, of course, talked about the grant that I gave information to about this today. I also met with Heroes Homecoming, and we do have another meeting coming up for Heroes Homecoming on the 10th, which is this Friday at 11:30 at the library downtown. And again, we have our chamber, we have our Veterans Commission, and we have our commissioners along with myself being involved in that. We have a great team working on what we're doing in Hope Mills for the event, and we've also sent out the information about that. I want everyone, especially churches, to ring the bells at 11 on the 11th, and that's going to be a county-wide event. The other thing that I attended was, again, the planning for the Mayor's Coalition, along with our county commissioners meeting. And again, that was sponsored by the county manager, which is Amy Cannon. And that's the extent of the meetings that I have. We did have, and I received this, and my intent was to have this, and Ms. Starling already was ahead of me. You have information about the upcoming meeting with DOT, and again, this was presented to us that they're going to start talking to citizens in reference to the widening of North Carolina 59 to 3 lanes, providing a center turn lane from Parkton Road to Shipman Road. And all of this, of course, is in our MIA, but most importantly, they're going to seek citizens' input as they move forward with it. And if you've been out that way, you know they've already bought right away. They've bought buildings and houses, and it's happening, but they're just going to ask for input from the citizens in reference to the rest of it. Any staff comments? Ms. Starling?
No, thank you.
Ms. Adams? Mr. Hartzog? No. Official comments? Anyone?
I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight, hanging out with us.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I got
Yes, sir.
just a few things. Dan, on the panhandler ordinances, we're going to hear that at the, you're going to have that ready for us August 20th, is that correct?
Correct, yes. I tried to have it ready for this meeting and didn't quite get it finished.
No worries. And just something I would like on the next agenda. I believe it was in 2012, it came to my attention that we didn't have all of our properties identified, and I made a motion, which was approved unanimously, to post any of our town properties that might pose a liability issue. And before we know it, there was all of our town properties posted. And we are hearing, and I don't think I'm the only one up here, we are all hearing from our citizens they would like to be able to walk, if we're going to maintain the golf course, they would like to be able to walk on the golf course. And the lake bed number 2 also is an issue. There was actual citizens wanting to walk down that area. And there's probably some other areas in town they would like to walk. But we can discuss it further at the next meeting if that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I forwarded a very nice video that was done by a real estate company of our municipal park. I thought it was very well done and professional, and I forwarded it to Town Manager Adams. And then I remembered that the Hope Mills Police Department did a very nice job with the drones after the refilling of our lake, and just made mention to her a friendly request that if the Hope Mills Police Department is willing or has the time, it'd be nice to have drone coverage of all of our major pieces of property, so our citizens visualize what it is, and maybe even have that for the affected areas added into our comprehensive plan. And that's really a staff level item. I just wanted to apprise everyone of that. And just for clarity, when we called the August 1st special meeting, the notice was required to go out, was it 48 hours in advance? But we sent out the notice, it was Wednesday or Thursday the week before, if I recall. The conversation that we had with Rachel Cotter was on July 31st, and in that conference, she did say that leaving out the Legion Road property, lake bed number 2, and the Butler Nature Preserve, and the planning documents that our county has spent a lot of time on, the Southwest Cumberland County Use Plan and a few others, were oversight and were left out, and that was their company's fault. and she apologized. So there was not any intent on my side or Commissioner Larson's to cover up. There was no big cover up. We've got it in writing from McAdams that it was their oversight. So I don't know what I'm trying to cover up. I think I put that exact email on Facebook because it's a public record, and y'all deserve to know these things. We're paying a lot of money for our comprehensive plan. We expect to be done 100% correct. And that's all I've got.
Okay. I'm good. Hope everyone has a good night.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to thank everyone for all your prayers and concerns. The stuff from the town that I received today was a surprise, but it was good. It was good. This to me is just a little bump in the road. It's not every day we have a shoulder replaced, but it's not every day that we come through it with flying colors like I appear to have done. So again, I want to thank all of you for your prayers and your concerns, and I'll still be running the streets. Maybe not as fast, but I'll be running the streets.
Thank you. I'd like to make notice to our board under types of meeting, under regular meetings and special meetings. It was brought to my attention there was some issues in reference to Rachel Cotter actually being at our meeting. Because the Comprehensive Parks and Rec Plan was an item on the agenda, she could have been here and she could have presented. Town Manager Adams did ask if we would ask her to be here. And if you read under item D, which is on page 7, you'll see that the council may take up any item of business not covered by the notice if the council first determines in good faith that the item must be discussed or acted upon. And in that particular case, the comprehensive plan was very important as far as it kept being brought up, and she could have been invited to come, and it would not have messed up the agenda item, nor would it have been inferred that we were trying to do something or conduct business, because she'll be making a report in reference to that plan. So I'd just like to bring that to your notice. And one other thing I would like to say in reference to the Comprehensive Parks and Rec Plan. This plan was initiated originally by the previous board, and that was when we realized that developing the golf course was something that we couldn't handle as a committee, as a board, or as a Parks and Rec committee, because there was so much land and so many things you had to consider. So that the firm was hired in order to develop that plan. It was then brought to our attention that if you are going to seek grant money, you need to do a comprehensive plan. And it was decided at that time that we would look at Hope Mills Lake, Heritage Park, this area up here, and the golf course. And the reason for designating those was because we felt like those were areas that were priorities, and if we needed to get grant money, that we could seek money based on individual spots. And that was where it started. When this new board came on board, then we made some changes and some recommendations were done differently, which is fine, but I can understand why the McAdams firms had some difference as far as what they were doing. The other thing that I think is important is, and this is where we've been brought to the attention, that Fayetteville is also using this same group to do their comprehensive Parks and Rec plan. And I would like to make note that they are still continuing to do and develop their Parks and Rec. As they develop something such as splash pads, such as an additional swimming pool, it's being added into their plan. So there's not anything wrong with us doing some of the things that we have in our proposal for we actually have two phases of the lake park, phase 2 and phase 3, that have been halted. Some of those initiatives could be taking place, just like some of the initiatives of Heritage Park, because you just write those in that those have been completed. But I would like to bring that to the attention of our board, and to the fact that there's lots of things when you change boards. There's lots of things that have occurred in the previous or the past 2 years, and sometimes when you change, you miss informing everything that has taken place. So maybe from here on out, as we go through items that we need to cover, we can do a better job of preparation before it's put on the agenda, making sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. I too appreciate everyone being here this evening, and I do appreciate the concern that all of you have shown for Commissioner Legg and for the rest of our board. And with that,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. You don't need a second, so good evening.